The following TGC production may not be rebroadcast or otherwise used without the expressed written consent of the Government Channel 16 and the City of Athens. Your local source for live meetings. The Government Channel presents
Every 2 years, Athens voters go to the polls and decide who will set city policy for the following 2 years. On November 4th, voters will make their decisions again. In wards 1 and 4, you'll choose between 2 candidates respectively. And in wards 2 and 3, there's only one official candidate. I'm Shireen Jones, and in the next 60 minutes, Spotlight will take a look at who's running and why. Also, a man who served on city council for many years is changing jobs. All that and more on today's Spotlight. Thanks for joining us.
This is Spotlight, 1997.
Welcome to Spotlight. I'm Shireen Jones. Today's Spotlight shines its lights on this year's city elections. Every 2 years, the city council, the council president, and the treasurer are elected. Among this year's city council candidates, 2 students, a lawyer, a contractor, and a few professors. We'll take a closer look now at this year's candidates. Ward 1 features one of the most hotly contested races in this year's election. I'm at the Central Avenue United Methodist Church, one of 6 locations where you can vote if you live in the 1st Ward. Democratic incumbent Linda Hiller fought a tough fight in the spring primary, and now she faces political newcomer Jimmy Stewart. Spotlight's Rebecca Walsh recently met with Hiller to find out why she's running again.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Walsh for Spotlight, and I'm here today with Linda Hiller, City Council candidate. What are some issues or concerns you've heard from the citizens?
Well, I've been doing a lot of campaigning in my ward, and that's Ward 1 on the west side. And I would say that the problems and concerns people have the most are related to high density. The high density of the neighborhoods and problems that go along with high density, and poor planning by the, I'd say the city and the university. So I could explain some of those problems. On some of the larger streets, like North Lancaster Street, there are a lot of people having vandalism problems and trash problems, people throwing trash in their yards, and then a lot of housing nearby that trash was, spread out during the week because it wasn't being properly contained. Speeders, people complain about too much traffic, noise. In fact, a friend of mine moved to West Washington Street, a few months ago. She says she's called the police 10 times for various incidents, noise, fights in in the neighbor's front yard, but she's real adamant about making sure, she keeps her quality of life, and she feels like the way to do that is to get the police over there and try to keep things under control. Parking problems are still a big issue on the west side. I hear people complaining about not having any place to park, and people complaining about getting tickets in front of their house for 25 hours, for parking their car in front of their house, because the 24-hour parking rule is enforced very strictly in my ward, more so than some of the other areas of Athens.
Thank you very much. That was Linda Hiller, and this is Rebecca Walsh for Spotlight.
Hiller's Republican challenger is new to Athens politics. Jimmy Stewart says he's running because he thinks his experience in construction will help with the city's planning of its infrastructure. Spotlight reporter Suzanne Billett recently caught up with Stewart to find out why.
Hello, I'm Suzanne Billett for Spotlight. I'm here with City Council candidate Jimmy Stewart. Mr. Stewart, could you tell the viewers what the most frequently asked questions or concerns from the community have been so far as this election has been progressing?
Well, it seems like time and time again what we really run into going door to door is that people are concerned that a lot of their city councilmen seem to take more interest in working on their own real estate developments or their own rental properties, or, that sort of thing, their own business dealings around the community. And, again, I think that's really unfortunate, because Athens, and especially the west side, do face a lot of infrastructure concerns that need a lot of attention. And, those are the type of concerns that I'm really going to try to work on here on the west side. That's, construction and infrastructure is more about my background, and again, people are concerned about things like lighting and sidewalks and the traffic on a lot of our streets, particularly on the west side. And, we need to put a lot of energy into solving these problems once and for all.
Mr. Stewart, could you elaborate on some of these infrastructure issues?
Specifically, I think we need some more lighting in areas, on the west side, for example, on West Washington Street, and areas of High Street and the stairs that connect Washington down to West Union, or West State down to West Union, excuse me. That, and there are other infrastructure areas, for that matter, just the condition of some of the rental housing on the west side. I've seen some really bad living conditions, and I've told people time and time again to, contact the code office if that's what they're there for, and a lot of people aren't aware of this. But, right now we're in the process of updating the city code, and, I think we need to be very careful, because when, like I said earlier, a lot of the people who are updating this code are landlords and business people, and you have to be careful as to what maybe they might have in mind.
Jimmy Stewart, City Council candidate, and good luck.
Thank you.
Figuring out where you're supposed to vote can be confusing. Your voting location depends on two things: your ward and your precinct. If you live in the First Ward, there are several places you can vote. If you live in Ward 1, Precinct 1, you vote at the First Christian Church located at West State Street and North Congress. You vote at Central Avenue Church if you live in Ward 1's Precinct 2. For those of you living in Precinct 3 in the First Ward, you vote at the Athens Township Building at 313 West Union Street. Precinct 4 and 5 voters head to Ohio University's Convocation Center to cast your votes. And if you live in Ward 1, Precinct 6, you vote in the conference room in Jefferson Hall. If you still have questions about where to vote, call the Board of Elections at 592-3201. Well, that's Ward 1. Now, when Spotlight returns, we'll take a look at Wards 2 and 3, and the City Council President is running again. We'll find out why. All that and more when Spotlight returns.
My grandfather was born a slave, but both he and my grandmother went to college and became teachers. As you can imagine, the power of education was made very clear to me. So, with the help of the College Fund, I attended a historically black university, which prepared me for graduate school and other future challenges, like being married to this guy.
College also prepared me for the future.
Tours overseas, 22 moves in 33 years, camera crews in our house.
And opportunities we couldn't have had without degrees. But thousands of deserving kids can't afford college. Without the College Fund, they'd miss the chance to become astronauts, doctors, artists, Army officers, anything they imagine. But you can help them fulfill their potential.
Please join Colton and me in supporting the College Fund.
A mind is a terrible thing to waste. What do you mean, challenge?
Once you've cast your vote on November 4th, join the government channel for live 1997 election coverage. I'm Shireen Jones, and I'll be talking with Mayor Rick Abel and several of the candidates for City Council about the election results and how they will affect upcoming decisions on Council. Carla Molinex will join us with all the latest poll numbers and final numbers. Make sure you join us on November 4th for live election coverage.
Picasso painted the old guitarist during a period of depression that lasted 4 years, his blue period. Today, with new discoveries, 80% of depressive disorders are being successfully treated, giving hope to millions that maybe now, nobody has to have a blue period.
This is David.
Oh, hi.
This is what David's done. David went to college. Sorry, Annapolis. David taught himself to play piano, the sax, even the bagpipes. Well, maybe not the bagpipes. David was NBA Rookie of the Year. He's also been to the Olympics twice. David even became a naval officer. David's sure done a lot. But you know one thing David's never done?
Drugs.
David doesn't do drugs. Maybe that's why he's done so much.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Shireen Jones. Now today's Spotlight is shining its lights on this year's city elections, and we'll take a look now at the 2nd Ward. I'm standing in front of the Convocation Center. It's one of the places where you can vote if you live in the 2nd Ward. In last spring's primary, he faced an uphill battle against an incumbent, but now Patrick Lane is the only candidate on this year's official ballot for the 2nd Ward. Well, what makes him so special? Well, for starters, he's an Ohio University student. Spotlight's Carla Molinex recently caught up with a young politician.
Hello, I'm Carla Molinex for Spotlight, and with me tonight is 2nd Ward candidate Pat Lang. Pat, when you speak to community members, what are the issues you find are important to them?
Well, Carla, the 2nd Ward is a very diverse ward, so a lot of the answers that I got varied depending on which neighborhood I was in. For instance, talking to students on South Green, a big issue was code enforcement and off-campus housing. You know, a lot of them wanted to be sure that, you know, when they moved off campus eventually, that they wanted to be able to have a place where, you know, the roof wasn't falling down around their head, or you know, if they don't have the leaky roof, that's always going to be fixed next week. You know, in different areas, like around Carroll Road, that area, there was a lot of concern about the overdevelopment with the Oakmont project. Things like water pressure on Carriage Hill were an issue, so it varied depending on, you know, which neighborhood you're in. I guess one of the most frequent answers I got, whether I was on campus or up in the neighborhood, was, well, I don't know, or I don't really have time to follow Athens politics all that closely, which is, I don't offer that as a criticism of the people of my ward, because I understand, you know, they're very busy people and they have other things to do besides, you know, sit down and watch the government channel and follow all the issues of the town. But for that reason, I think it's important that we have a city government that is not only responsive to the needs of the people, but that also goes out and actively tries to seek feedback from the constituents.
Thank you, Pat. Candidate for 2nd Ward, Pat Lang.
Thank you, Carla.
If you live in the 2nd Ward, you'll vote in one of 4 places. Nelson Commons is where you vote if you live in the ward's 1st precinct. If you live in the 2nd or 3rd precincts of the Ward 2, you'll cast your vote at Ohio University's Convocation Center. And if you live in the 4th precinct, the Richland Avenue Fire Station is where you go to vote. If you're still unsure of where you should vote, call the Board of Elections at 592-3201. He began his political career representing the city. He then became 1st Ward's councilman, and now Guy Phillips is completing his 1st term as council president, and he's running for re-election. Spotlight reporter Rebecca Walsh recently caught up with him to talk about the city's future.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Walsh for Spotlight. I'm here today with City Council candidate Guy Phillips. What is your outlook for the next 2 years?
For the next 2 years, Athens City Council will be focusing on one aspect of what we'll be focusing on is making sure that the fees that the city charges for different services accurately reflects the cost of those services being provided. We currently have an income tax that we collect, and that goes for general services, but the 4 fee services we want to make sure that are reflected in the actual cost. We do not want our income tax dollars subsidizing our water department or our parking or subsidizing our code office. We want those services to be self-sustaining. We're also looking at doing a project where stormwater collection. Right now we have our wastewater, and we charge for sewage for that, and we're looking to set up a program where actually the households and lot size and parking lots actually pay for those storm sewer services. Currently we're billing sanitary sewer is covering the cost of the storm sewers.
Okay, what is your feeling about a college student running for council?
I'm very excited about that. I think that'll give a very fresh perspective to council. I know when I first was elected, it's been some 12 or 14 years ago, I was pretty young. I felt like I was very much in tune with the high university students, and now I'm considerably older than that, and I feel that probably I've lost touch, and I think it's going to be a great help having young Mr. Lang serving on City Council with us, and I look forward to his perspectives.
All right, thank you very much.
Let's take a look now at the 3rd Ward. If you live in the 3rd Ward, one of the places you can vote is the East Elementary School. Now, for the 3rd consecutive election, Nancy Bain, who represents the 3rd Ward, is running unopposed. She has served 12 years on City Council. Spotlight's Carla Mullinex recently caught up with Bain after a City Council meeting.
Hello, I'm Carla Mullinex for Spotlight, here with 3rd Ward candidate Nancy Bain. Nancy, when you speak to the citizens of Athens, what do you find is the most important issue to them?
Okay. I would say that generally some people have real specific issues like the paint lines in front of their houses and the problems with speeding and stoplights. But generally I think they want to maintain their public infrastructure, their open space. They want to keep parking moving in the direction they see it moving. They want to see a reduction in perhaps some of the traffic in their own neighborhoods. I don't know where we're supposed to put the traffic, but that's another matter. I think they're interested in making sure the water's pure and that the air is clean and the quality of life that we have here is maintained. And so I think that's the main charge that we all feel again and again. And I also feel right now that we have the new understanding that it's a very different city from the city I started council on. The students are a larger part of the city. We have more students living in residential areas now. They used to live in dormitories when I started at OU, and I think we've gradually tried to accommodate that new reality. And it's very difficult because I think people who live in the outlying areas don't really understand what's going on in those close-in neighborhoods. And so we've been trying to sort of upgrade the understandings around town. So in addition to public health, I'd say the new understanding of what Athens is truly like within the corporate limits.
All right. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay.
There are 8 precincts in the 3rd Ward. If you live in precincts 1 or 3, you'll vote at City Hall. Precinct 2 voters go to the First Christian Church at West State Street and North Congress to vote. If you live in the 3rd Ward's 4th or 5th precincts, you'll vote at the East Elementary School. The Friar Station on Columbus Road is where you vote if you live in precincts 6 and 7. And if Ward 3's 8th district is where you live, the Athens Recreation Center off East State Street is where you vote. If you'd like to double check where you vote, you should call the Board of Elections at 592-3201. Still more to come on Spotlight. When we return, the 4th Ward race is heating up, and we'll take a look at the candidates who are going head-to-head and why a long-term council member is changing jobs. All that and more when we return.
Statistics show that the average person over a lifetime has 75,302 dreams, 3.8 surprise parties, 563 pairs of socks, and 8.6 different jobs. Is educated by 39.7 teachers, laughs 1.5 million times, finds $8.15 in the sofa, tries 12 different hairstyles, plays 6.4 sports, and owns 3.5 pets. But the average person only has one life, so why mess it up with drugs? A message of 29.3 seconds from a drug-free Navy and Marine Corps.
Your child out here unprotected? Never. Neither would you forget her baby shots. Yet nearly a third of our babies' lives are on the line, because even with regular doctor visits, they haven't had all their shots. Ask your doctor. Your baby needs at least 11 shots by age 2. Please don't leave her out there alone. 11 shots by 2. How sure are you?
Where's Michael?
National Guard duty.
Ah, bet he's just sandbagging.
I don't think so.
Sure he is. He left us with all the big fires to put out.
Over 52% of our military is made up of the National Guard and Reserve. They serve in times of war and in times of disaster. And the jobs they perform are hard enough, without you making it harder.
Well, let's hope he's ready for some late nights when he gets back.
Please support your employees in the National Guard and Reserve.
Once you've cast your vote on November 4th, join the government channel for live 1997 election coverage. I'm Shireen Jones, and I'll be talking with Mayor Rick Abel and several of the candidates for City Council about the election results and how they will affect upcoming decisions on Council. Carla Mullinex will join us with all the latest poll numbers and final numbers. Make sure you join us on November 4th for live election coverage.
20 kids. For 1 hour a week, you leave your concrete world of flip phones and faxes and talk to 20 kids about how business works. They will question everything. But those 20 kids will talk to 20 more. So by Saturday, what you said on Thursday could be halfway around their world. You get to make a difference. Could just make the rest of your week pretty dull. That's the new JA, teaching kids how business works.
The energy saved by recycling just one aluminum can could operate a television set for 3 hours.
For every 4 feet of newspaper you recycle, 1 tree is saved.
The energy saved by recycling just one glass bottle could light a 100-watt bulb for 4 hours.
It's good to recycle because the world can get trashed up and we don't want that to happen in our world.
Buy stuff that's recycled. Recycle the stuff you buy. Take it back.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Shireen Jones. Today we're taking a look at the upcoming City Council elections on November 4th. And now we'll focus our attention on the 4th Ward. It's a lawyer versus a painting contractor for the right to represent the city's east side. Democrat Robert Shastak is completing his first term as councilman and is being challenged by political newcomer Gary Van Meter. Spotlight's Carla Mullinex recently caught up with Shastak to find out why he wants to run again.
Hello, I'm Carla Mullinex for Spotlight, here with 4th Ward incumbent Bob Shostak. Bob, when you're out in the community speaking to the citizens of Athens, what do you find weighs most heavily on their minds?
In our particular neighborhood, the 4th Ward, which is known as the East Side or the Far East Side, the citizens that I've met with on the 2 occasions when I had meetings within the various precincts in the ward have been generally about the quality of life in that neighborhood. And this would include things like stop signs at various places where people would cut through the neighborhood to get a shortcut from East State Street, for example, over to Stimson Avenue, or a shortcut from some other parts, trying to avoid the traffic jams on East State Street. So stop signs was an issue. Another one is sidewalks. Many of the residents in the east side like to walk. In evenings especially, they like to walk around. If you'll come over there sometime, you'll notice, you'll see families, with kids on bikes and things walking around, elderly couples who perhaps are retired walking around and enjoying an evening out. This kind of sense of community is what they like to maintain in the Near East Side. And as a consequence, those are the issues that they tend to raise with me, and that would be traffic control, sidewalks. They like to see that there's not too much noise and commotion within the community, especially in the evenings. So those are the kinds of things they look at. I guess you'd call them security interests. They're also concerned about development nearby. That affects on their property values. Many folks buy property in Athens and like to keep the value of it. As a consequence, they like to see to it that the city doesn't allow things to happen which will impact adversely on the property values. So those are some of the issues that they've expressed to me. Many others. We can't possibly go through the entire laundry list of them. Potholes in the streets, for example, sometimes is an issue. Garbage pickup. Now that we're coming into the fall, leaves, and the commotion that causes. So there are a variety of issues, but I would say that by and large, those issues that one could incorporate as a part of growing up in a family-oriented community are the issues that are most brought to my attention, and those are the things that I've dealt with during my 2 years, almost 2 years, representing the 4th Ward.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Sure.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. For Spotlight, I'm Carla Mullinex.
Shostak's challenger Gary Van Meter says he's concerned about the number of conflicts of interest among current council members, and that's one reason why he decided to run. Spotlight's Rebecca Walsh recently spoke with Van Meter about the changes he would make if elected.
Hello, this is Rebecca Walsh for Spotlight. I'm here with City Council candidate from the 4th Ward, Gary Van Meter. What are some issues or concerns you've heard from the public since your campaign has started?
Well, for about the past 6 weeks, I've been going out door to door and talking with people, and one of the things you immediately notice about the 4th Ward, it's a pretty diverse ward, much like the city. Common concerns that I hear throughout the whole ward would be the question of landlords and developers on council, streets and sewer concerns, and then many of the neighborhoods are concerned about the integrity of the neighborhoods, the conditions of rental properties, things like that. Parking is always brought up. East State Street widening is another thing that people asked about.
And what are your feelings on the parking issue?
That's even a more diverse issue. I've often thought if I could solve the parking problem in Athens, I could probably be the governor of the state. But the thing I get there is in the 4th Ward, probably the farther east you go, people are not concerned about the parking problem because there is no parking problem there. They're concerned about getting tickets on their cars. But in the Near East Side, where parking is a problem, that the ticket system there, the 24-hour enforcement seems to be working pretty well there. And then as you get even more into the student areas, they're just worried about trying to find a place to park. So it's a problem that's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of working together between Athens and the university, I believe, to really solve that problem.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That was Gary Van Meter, and this is Rebecca Walsh for Spotlight.
I'm standing inside the Athens Library. Now, if you live in the 4th Ward's 3rd precinct, this is where you'll vote. Voters living in precincts number 1 and 2 will vote at the city's recreation center on East State Street. Eastside Elementary School is where you should go to vote if you live in the 4th precinct. And 5th precinct voters will vote at the Nelson Commons. He spent many years serving the citizens of Athens as one of its at-large council representatives. And now Bill Bias has decided it's time to switch jobs and become the city's next treasurer. Spotlight reporter Carla Molinex recently caught up with Bias to find out why he's making the switch.
Hello, I'm Carla Molinex for Spotlight, here with candidate for the Treasury, Bill Bias. Bill, what made you want to leave City Council and become treasurer of Athens?
Well, I am finishing my 4th term, 8 years on council, and we've pretty much discussed and been through it all several times, and I very much enjoyed this, but I zeroed in on, I guess, the area that I've specialized in on council was the finance aspect, and I've been finance chair for 4 years now, and I just saw kind of a need that council has not had an advisor that really reports on the financial status of the city, that takes out a long-term approach to it, and that's kind of what I wanted to provide to the city.
All right. Well, can you tell us a little bit about what a treasurer does?
The treasurer reconciles the bank statements, has a few legal requirements, and that is to at least quarterly report to council on the financial status of the city, annually report to council on the financial health of the city, and I think that's pretty much the legal requirements of the job. That and on whatever forums council wants the finances reported on to do that. I would like to make a little bit more out of the job than what has been done in the past, and by that I mean, you know, the administration has their agenda that they come in with. Council members, if you take a look at how they have come and gone over the years, come and go a lot over the years, and no one takes a long view of the approach, and I really think that that would be something that would be good and fun to offer in that job. So that's really what I'd like to do.
Well, thank you, Bill.
Thanks a lot, Carla.
Sure. For the Government Channel, I'm Carla Molinex.
Bias is running unopposed. Well, there are only 3 spots on City Council for at-large members, but 4 candidates want to serve. When Spotlight returns, we'll meet the men who are running.
Every year, Americans throw away 25 billion polystyrene cups.
$1 out of every $10 we spend on food pays for packaging.
Less than 1% of the plastic we use is recycled.
Every year, we throw out enough office and writing paper to build a wall 12 feet high stretching from Los Angeles to New York City.
Buy stuff that's recycled. Recycle the stuff you buy. Take it back.
Hi, Mom. You look great. Hi, honey. I feel great. Thanks to Dr. Zay.
Thank you for wearing your medical alert bracelet. You know, without it, we wouldn't have known of her heart condition.
Or her medications, right, Mom? I always wear it. Where is my medical alert bracelet?
Don't worry, here it is. We wouldn't let you leave without it. If you have a medical condition or take prescription medications, Medical Alert could save your life. Call now for free information.
Catching passes for the Cincinnati Bengals didn't always come easy for me. I'm Chris Collinsworth, and in football I had plenty of help from my coaches and teammates. In the classroom, your teachers and counselors are here to coach you through your tough times. Don't be afraid to ask for help and stay in school.
This public service announcement is from the Ohio School Boards Association.
Someone out there needs help, and you've decided to save them. Every year, thousands of people die waiting for organ and tissue transplants. To be a donor, even if you've signed something, you must tell your family now so they can carry out your decision later. Otherwise, it's like throwing a 12-foot rope to someone who's 15 feet away. Share your life. Share your decision.
Which child deserves to be read to? This one? Or is it this one? Which child will learn to use a toothbrush? Who will have a chance to sing? The choice is yours. Volunteer for Head Start. With your help, more low-income preschool children can get what other children already have. Change the world of a child, and you change the world.
Yes, shout, Wes. Hi, I'm Charles Durning. You know, we all cherish making new friends. They often give a fresh spin to our lives. But there's one group of friends we sometimes forget, our hospitalized veterans. I encourage you to volunteer your time at a VA medical center near you. You just might give a new friend a fresh angle on life. And who knows, you might even learn a new trick or two yourself. Right, Wes?
Right, Charlie. Welcome.
Remember the old saying, what goes around comes around? That's what happens when you recycle and buy recycled products. Quality recycled products and packaging are everywhere. So next time you go shopping, look for recycled content in your products and packaging. To make recycling work, you gotta buy recycled. Call 1-800-NRC-RECYCLE for a free shopper's guide to buying recycled products. Brought to you by the National Recycling Coalition and Recycle Ohio, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, George V. Voinovich, Governor.
Once you've cast your vote on November 4th, join the government channel for live 1997 election coverage. I'm Shireen Jones, and I'll be talking with Mayor Rick Abel and several of the candidates for City Council about the election results and how they will affect upcoming decisions on Council. Carla Molinex will join us with all the latest poll numbers and final numbers. Make sure you join us on November 4th for live election coverage.
Tommy wants to design bridges when he grows up. Maybe he'll design one that you'll use. Now, would you like this free booklet of simple ways you can help improve his education? Call 1-800-96-PROMISE.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Shireen Jones. Today we're previewing the 1997 general elections. And I want to remind you, after you've cast your vote on November 4th, join Carla Molinex and myself here on the government channel for all your local election coverage. Well, one of the races is definitely going to bring fresh faces to City Council. 3 of the 4 candidates for at-large positions are newcomers to Athens politics. The only incumbent, Edward Baum. Spotlight's Carla Molinex recently spoke with Baum about issues facing City Council.
Hello, I'm Carla Molinex for Spotlight. I'm here with City Council incumbent Ed Baum. Ed, with the elections right around the corner, what are the issues or questions you find frequently come up from the community?
There are a number of issues and questions which have come up recently. Of course, parking is on a lot of people's minds. The parking ordinance that we enacted actually was enacted 30 years ago and being enforced frequently last year, I think has solved some of the problems we've had on our streets, not being able to find a place to park. Another issue that's come up is the widening of East State Street, which is a very slow process. It's been in works for about 15 years, or more than that, come to think of it. I think that will be going forward. But by and large, a lot of people are very concerned about the infrastructure of Athens, that is the streets, the roads, the sewers. We've had some sewer problems, we've had water line breaks, we've had numerous boil orders, and I think people are beginning to realize that our old infrastructure needs to be renewed and replaced, and I think that's going to be one of the big issues that we'll be facing as a city council in the next term. Of course, we have been working on updating the zoning and housing code, which virtually everyone agrees is outdated. It's over 30 years old now, and we have been working diligently to upgrade, to revise the zoning code, and we hope to work on the housing code next year.
Ed, one of the issues that's come up repeatedly in the community is the parking issue. What future plans does City Council have to remedy that?
Well, you have to look at what we've been doing. We, of course, created the parking area at the fairgrounds, which increased the amount of parking space. The university has been working with us in increasing parking space, which they've done quite strongly over the past year. I think one of the things that we might consider is a second parking garage downtown, which we desperately need.
Do you know where they'll be building that?
There are a couple empty spaces. There's the space that the Presbyterian Church owns presently. There's a space that the county owns behind the courthouse. Those become candidates for parking garage. We also are looking at the possibility of what we call the residential high-density areas uptown of allowing small parking areas, maybe 8-10 cars, which I think would go to alleviate some of the parking problem.
Right. Well, thank you, Ed.
No,
Pleasure
thank you.
talking to you.
The only independent at-large candidate is Gregory Broadhurst. Broadhurst is studying environmental and city planning at Ohio University. Spotlight's Carla Molinex recently talked to Broadhurst about plans he has if elected to City Council.
Hello, I'm Carla Molinex for Spotlight, here with at-large candidate Gregory Broadhurst. Greg, what do you find to be the most important issue to the citizens of Athens?
I think the most important issue for the citizens of Athens is the fact that Athens is growing, and with growth you have a lot of things that you need to consider that need to be managed. So we need some real planning here, and I think planning is one of the most important things that the city of Athens needs to look at for now and into the future. And looking into the future, make planning decisions that take that kind of foresight into consideration.
All right. Now, as a citizen, you come to many city council meetings. What made you decide to run for council?
Well, I've been studying environmental and community planning at Ohio University for the last year and a half, almost 2 years. And I've been involved in numerous campaigns with the depot and restoration of the cemetery and some other things that have been mentioned in the news media. And I just wanted to take what I've been learning and apply it for the benefit of myself and my neighborhood and everybody who lives in the city. And this all started with a fixer-upper house on the west side. I never thought I'd get to this place, but it seems like it's the natural succession of things to be running for city council at large.
All right. Well, thank you, Greg. For Spotlight, I'm Carla Mullinex.
Another at-large candidate with university ties is Dale Tamke. Tamke is the Director of Housing at Ohio University, and he has also served 1.5 years on the city's Housing Board of Appeals. Spotlight's Jessica Goddard recently spoke with Tamke.
Hello. For Spotlight, I'm Jessica Goddard. I'm here with Dale Tamke, at-large city council candidate. Dale, with elections being right around the corner, certain issues have arisen from the community. Could you address for the viewers some of the issues you've been most frequently asked about?
Jessa, the 3 issues that I've chosen to emphasize in my campaign are balanced growth, quality housing, and responsive city services. Each one of those issues, I think, is something that the council needs to emphasize, and those are 3 issues that I think are particularly important. Balanced growth, of course, has to do with the growth of the city through annexation, the acquisition of property. Folks tell me that they're concerned that approaches to growth acknowledge the impact of that growth on the folks who already live in the city, but also is aware and is balancing the ability of the city to provide services to the new area. Quality housing has to do with issues of code enforcement, zoning enforcement, and the rewriting of those codes to bring them up to date. Work that's presently going on, and although it's not complete, work that I want to be involved with should I be on the council. And finally, responsive city services. It's really the stuff of city government. It's sewers, it's water, it's the leaf raking, trash collection, those kind of things. I think the mayor has done a good job as the administrator of the city government to get folks involved with the city service sectors, where the actual folks doing the work come out and talk to the citizens. As a council member, I would support that and urge that to be expanded and make sure that we continue to bring government closer to the people. So those are 3 issues that I think are important, and I think are also really important to people who live in the city.
Okay, thank you.
The final at-large candidate is local businessman Jim Sands. Sands has served 4 years on the city's Board of Zoning Appeals. Spotlight reporter Carla Mullinex recently spoke to Sands about issues facing City Council.
Hello, I'm Carla Mullinex for Spotlight, here with at-large candidate Jim Sands. Jim, when you speak to the citizens of Athens, what do you find to be the issues that are most important to them?
No surprise, parking is a very big issue. I'm surprised, to be honest, to find that most people are happy with the enforcement of the 24-hour parking ban, although I've heard quite a few people who would wish it were more evenly enforced throughout the city, something that I would certainly push for. Code enforcement is another issue that I've heard raised several times by many people. Both housing code and building code issues are important in this race. And perennially, since I've moved back to Athens 12 years ago, the widening of East State Street is beginning to be discussed again. We've been talking about this for over 12 years that I know of, and people are beginning to wonder where we are with this long-running project.
All right. How do you feel your experience on the zoning board helps you understand these issues?
Certainly, the nearly 4 years that I spent on the zoning board makes me aware of the importance of our zoning code, and also aware of the fact that the zoning code was put in force in 1962. 35 years later, it is high time for some fine-tuning to be made on that code. Present council has taken the first steps toward that. I would like to be involved in continuing that process.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
At-large candidate Jim Sands. For Spotlight, I'm Carla Mullinex.
That's a look at the 4 at-large candidates. Now remember, even though there are 4 running for office, you can only vote for 3. When Spotlight returns, we'll take a final look at the candidates.
This is Bob Hope asking you to support the National Federation.